you used it. What are your first impressions of Zuck's $44 billion competitor that he paid $0 billion to make?
Right.
Tell us how great it is.
I like Carlos is shitting on Meta again as I am making bank literally as we speak. Thank you once again, Zuckerberg.
Which, by the way, this might push the stock up a lot, by the way. I think.
Yes, I've always said this is going over $300. We are $5 or so away from $300. So I'm not going to claim the victory yet. I'll wait till the $300 actually hits. But we've closed that gap. I don't know, Chris, if remember we talked about the chart? We've closed that gap. And if we can stick above this, I mean, 316, 320 seems very doable, in my opinion. So that's great. In terms of the actual app, I am using it. And look, it's a ghost town right now. It's 2 million people, I think, joined today. So I'm not sure exactly how it's going to play itself out. But Twitter has its audience. It has 450 million people. They're not going to go to Threads. That's not going to happen.
But if there's so much bank,
Hold on. Yeah, there is a lot of bank.
Yeah.
But the people who use Instagram, 2.35 billion people, they will, a lot of those people are going to migrate. And Zuck might have the first platform that has over 1 billion users for Threads because it's easy to migrate. It connects to your Instagram. It connects to your, I think, Facebook too. I'm not sure about that. But basically, it's just easy for those people to transfer and use that service. So I think the 2 billion people who don't use Twitter are not going to care about Twitter. And a lot of those people end up on Threads. That's my thoughts on it.
Carlos, your opinion on what Zucks is trying to do? I want you to apply it. I want you to answer it from a business perspective, and then from a can it really take people off Twitter and become the new town square perspective.
From a business perspective, it's a smart move to do it. I mean, he's made a lot of success by copying the successes of others, and he's had some success copying, say, certain features. But with this thing, I think it's going to be an utter failure. I think it's going to be an absolute disaster. I haven't used the app, but even talking to you before we went live, you told me, you said that the interface is horrible, that it's garbage. And granted, it's new, but we're going to be harsh on it, right? Because you're trying to come in and compete with Elon Musk. The other part of it is there's a lot to unpack here. I actually wrote my thoughts down because a lot of times when we finish the pods, I feel like there's a lot of points that I didn't make. But number one, okay, so let's say that you get some of these users that are on Threads. You're only monetizing those users once. You can't monetize them on Facebook and on Instagram at the same time. So I don't understand how the boost, how that would be a boost to the bottom line. You're either monetizing that person on Facebook, on Instagram, or on Threads. So
it's a good point, because if the ads aren't more profitable,
right, you're passing them around to the different social media platforms. What does it matter if the 2 billion people are on one?
It matters. It does matter, by the way. If people spend 5 minutes more looking at ads on whatever Threads, 5 minutes more, that equates to something to the bottom line.
What
and
I'm
this is
that,
almost.
But those people would have had to come from Twitter.
Almost
but that's 5 minutes that they're not spending on Instagram, where they would have seen an ad as well.
Where the ads are better.
No. I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong. I think
of
when
course
I go on Instagram,
you always think I'm wrong. But I want to.
I go on Instagram, by the way, I'm on it for whatever. I'm not actually a big Instagram user, but I use it for 5 minutes. I looked at whatever. And then I go to Twitter and do whatever I do there. Right. And now I'll go to Threads and do whatever I do there. So I'm giving everybody the 5 minutes. That's my point. It's just additive to Facebook. So whatever they can get.
What I'm saying is, okay, what I'm saying is, if you can only open one app at a time, bro. So if you're on Facebook and you're on you're on Instagram or you're on Threads, it's all the same. It's all the same spot.
I don't agree with
you. So
anyway,
that's one of my points. I don't really see that. The other part of it is like, look, you call it AMIT for not caring about free speech and privacy, but then you openly support the guy who is arguably the most offensive when it comes to free speech, whose platform is responsible for the largest social media propaganda platform in the world, with like election interference and pandemic bans and misinformation. And so it seems a bit hypocritical.
Okay, let me answer that. Sure. You're directing it to me. One,
because you know what comes to mind? There's a quote from Confucius that says,
okay,
the master said,
man brought up Confucius. Okay, yeah. What's the quote?
He had to look this up because he wrote it down. He wanted to sound intelligent here.
This is good. It's going to sound intelligent.
This is a quote from Confucius. The master said, if your conduct is determined solely by considerations of profit, you will arouse great resentment.
Okay, sounds good. Number one, Facebook investor right here, Carlos, the biggest hypocrite of them all. Made his bank on Facebook, decided to sell out. All of a sudden, he's got a lot of morality. Number two, the guy who keeps shitting on Carp bought 100 shares of Palantir, shitting on Palantir still, but did buy it. So the hypocrisy goes both ways. And anytime you buy any stock in the S&P, okay, you're killing little Nigerians somewhere where you're
Sure.
killing
Okay,
little African
that
babies.
is
That's true.
okay,
He's right
My
about that.
point
that
is,
is okay.
you buy
That
my
aside,
point
that
is you
listen,
drove an oil car
that
for
okay,
goddamn
all of
30
that
Let me
years.
resolve this actually.
No,
Let me
Hold on, I'm
resolve
just
this.
pointing
I'm
out. I'm just pointing out the
I know, but
hypocrisy is
you're
so thick
making
with this
you're making
guy.
nonsense.
It's so amazingly
You're making
thick
nonsense
that
arguments.
you just pick and choose your battles when you're losing all of them because you do the exact same thing every
I don't.
American does.
No, I don't.
Yet
I
you
have
are picking your
principles. I have
battle here.
principles, and I stick to my
Sure.
principles.
Can I resolve this really quickly before you? Can I just interject really quickly? I think this will resolve something. Besides the actual stock investment hypocritical stuff, because we're all hypocrites for investing in certain stocks, right? Carlos may feel more slightly.
There's a certain there's a certain amount of you can't
right
to play the game. You gotta be you gotta be okay with some of that.
Okay, so we're
so
allowed
so
to
let
invest and be hypocrites in the market, but we're not allowed to be
If
hypocrites.
you let me, you want me
in
to
our
make
life.
here's my
no,
point.
so let me do the middle
wait,
ground. Let me do the middleman thing. It's not about. I'm not even talking about the stocks. Forget the stocks. I'm talking about. Carlos is a decent point, Vitaly. You're a big free speech guy.
Yep,
But
and privacy.
Hold
Except
on,
when
let
it
me
comes
let me
to
finish. You're supporting a platform that has been known to censor when you have an alternative that literally says anything goes. So forget the stock, right? You may make bank on the stock. That doesn't matter. It's more so a question of ethically, if you gave me and Tanner a lot of shit, why are you kind of just juicy to post on threads knowing that they're going to censor it? I think that's more the question versus the stock.
Okay, so in America, I actually do believe you have freedom of speech, okay, at least in terms of the government giving you or allowing freedom of speech in our Bill of Rights. That doesn't mean the companies have to give us freedom of speech. When I walk into Walmart, I cannot scream fire. It's not allowed, okay? I cannot yell at somebody.
the
It's
false
not
equivalent.
allowed.
False
Hold
equivalent.
on.
Fallacy
Wait.
number one.
No, it's not a false equivalent.
It is a false equivalent.
Let me do this. Let me give 3 minutes to Vitaly, 3 minutes to Carlos, completely uninterrupted. 3 minutes to Vitaly, go. 3 minutes to Carlos.
Yes, in America, I vote with my. I don't even need 3 minutes. In America, I vote with. Carlos can talk with 3 minutes because it's all bullshit. But I can vote basically with my dollars, and I can go and use Meta one day, and then one day I do want my privacy, and I don't, and I go to DuckDuckGo. I'm allowed to do that as a free-thinking American. That is the whole point, that I have with my dollars, I can vote on it. What we were talking about in terms of them using our data the way we don't want, and we want to control it, I still agree with that. By the way, Twitter's using our data. It's not like they're not. Okay, Facebook is using our data. Google is using our data. That's what should change in time. I hope that changes where we have to say, hey, I want you to stop using this, or I want you to stop using that, or you get to not use this anymore. That's what we were talking about back in the, 2 weeks ago. It's different than me using Instagram, which Carlos also uses, by the way, using that and understanding that they're using my data and feeding me ads, and then going to Twitter, which I will continue to use. I have no problem using Twitter. I enjoy it as a service. But to say that they are somehow so different than each other is kind of crazy. They are not, okay? At the end of the day, they are using our data, and they are going to sell us ads against our data. It's absolutely insane. And by the way, this whole Russian bots and this bots, it's happening on Twitter right now. So the Chinese government is basically always on Twitter trying to push their agenda. The Russians are pushing their agenda on Twitter, and they're doing the same thing on Facebook. So I don't see how there's a real difference here. You're just picking one side. Fine. You want to pick that side, cool, but I'm voting with my dollars. I'm voting for both. That's at the end of the day who wins.
Okay, Carlos, go ahead. You're muted.
What Vitaly does is he'll talk for a long time and say a bunch of stuff, and then basically not.
That was less than 2 minutes.
Not make any actual points that point to a certain principle that applies across the board. Okay, what I'm saying here is, I wrote this stuff down. Facebook and
so he was ready for this because I did not write any.
Facebook and Instagram are the biggest purveyors and offenders of free speech and privacy. Only Mark Zuckerberg is the one that's being brought up against in front of Congress to defend things like Cambridge Analytica, election interference, pandemic bans for misinformation. We could talk about Google separately, but I'm saying specifically that. So if you're going to shit on AMIT for not caring about privacy and data, and then at the same time be making money, and so you say voting with your dollars, you're giving them money to continue their operations and gloating about how much money you're making. The second thing is, you say, like, here's the big problem with it. You say social media companies can do whatever they want. In this country, we have a representative democracy, which means that when we don't like something, we should be able to vote these people out. When you give too much, when you take powers that should be that should be governmental powers, and you put them in the power and you put them under control of the social media companies, what you're saying is that their terms of service have more power than the Constitution. I can't vote Mark Zuckerberg out. You say, yes, I can choose not to participate, but I can't vote them out. I can't vote out the board members. So what you are doing is you are undermining the power of the Constitution by not putting these companies to task and having the government be the one that decides what is correct and what isn't correct in terms of our privacy and our data. That is my point with the whole thing. And so look, you want to go make money on it, that's fine, but don't pretend like you're also a free speech privacy advocate if you're giving the guy money and buying call options on this company and you want to see them go to the moon. It's fine if you do, I don't care, but you can't do both. That's all I'm saying. You can't shit on AMIT for not caring about privacy and then giving money to the guy who's eroding that privacy. That's my problem with it. It's a principle thing. It's not financial. When Meta was at $80, it was a good trade. It is a good trade, and it's returning back to the mean. That's what's happening now. That's what's happening. It's a good trade. But personally, my principle will not allow me to invest in that company because I do not want to support that. And if you follow me on Twitter, you know that this is really important to me. I do think about these things. My kids are going to see my Twitter feed one day, and I want them to know that their dad stood for that, and I can still make the money elsewhere. That's just me. And I'm not saying that not to buy it. I mean, KRIS Patel was in Facebook. KRIS was in.
Still am.
Yeah,
still
and he's still in Facebook. But
Congrats, KRIS.
But it's a different conversation. It's a different conversation than the kind of conversation that like you and I will have around this topic. And that's
no,
why
you just hate Zuckerberg. I'm saying as an American, I have a right to vote with my dollars, and I vote for Zuck.
I never said
he's
never said you
proving
can't.
more and more that he's the one who's actually the one in charge of this whole social media thing.
Actually,
it's not.
Okay,
Twitter.
wait. Okay,
I actually agree with VITALY there, by the way. I agree with VITALY.
Okay, I have points on that. But I got
he
points
has.
on that.
You keep talking about it like there's some big competitor. That this is the greatest thing billionaires convince us of. That there are competitors to billionaires. Zuck has won. Okay, he owns social media. For me not to even be on it, by the way, for my business, you know what I do? I'm a director of photography. To not use that as a platform where I can push my agenda too.
Right, but what you're doing is
crazy, dude. And the fact is, you're on it as well. I know you're on Facebook. You send me Instagram reels every day to our WhatsApp chat.
Do you understand that that's a straw man?
It's absolutely insane what you're talking about.
You understand that that's a straw man.
He's on WhatsApp every day, by the way, talking 1,000 tweets.
Do you understand?
By the way, all the reels for some reason have big boobies.
Hold on. That is a straw man fallacy. I am not arguing that point.
It is?
So I'm not arguing that point. I'm not arguing that social media isn't a necessary component of our society right now. I'm not arguing that. So I don't know why you're going off on such a tangent, because that's not the point that I'm trying to make. I'm talking specifically about investing in those companies. There are necessary evils in this world, but I don't have to participate in them.
No, but the problem is, Carlos, VITALY has no moral compass when it comes to investing, like most people. So that's where
that's all I'm saying. Just admit it. But don't give you shit about privacy. Don't give you shit about privacy for not caring about it if you also don't care about it when it comes to making money off of it. That's all I'm saying.
Definitely, when you invest, you're supposed to make money, and Meta is printing.
Then you know what though? Then
and that is the most important thing, because self-righteousness is not going to feed my kids. It's not.
But that's
so self-righteousness can feed your kids.
VITALY.
You can feed them all day long with it.
To VITALY's point, when he was arguing against me and Tanner, he still said he's an investor in Google, right? So he was giving a shit, but he still said he was.
But isn't this the same argument that you'll make when you say I'm investing in Enphase because it's clean energy and I don't want to support oil? You could make
I think his argument is
2%
2% solar penetration. That's VITALY's argument.
Hold on. At the end of the day,
money in oil companies.
Hold on. Okay, if you want to bring up oil, and for sure. At the end of the day, I do believe. Hold on. At the end of the day, I do believe clean energy is the right thing for the world. My background is environmental chemistry and engineering.
Here we go. That's what fallacy is. That's the argument from authority.
No. I actually spent 4 years working on environmental chemistry. I don't think you understand what that means.
That means that you know more than everybody.
No. It means that I actually spent caring about the world, trying to figure out solutions. I did research on it. Dude, I know you're making light of it.
VITALY last point, then we're going to get KRIS. VITALY last point.
Hold on. I spent 4 years doing this for a reason, because I do care at the end of the day that we transition off of oil. But at the end of the day, I do not invest in Enphase because they're green. That's idiotic. I'm not spending hundreds of thousands of dollars because they're green. I'm doing it because they're going to return.
Do you understand my
investment
point?
to me?
You're arguing a point I'm not making. What I'm saying is you argue a point of principle when it comes to solar and oil, and you don't argue that point of principle when it comes to social media. That's my whole point. So it's like
I'm not that against. First of all, I'm not against social media. This end all be all ruining everybody's life.
Yeah,
social media hasn't ruined my life.
What? I don't think you feel the same that social media is.
I don't feel social media has ruined
our
lives.
The data is there.
Yeah, but I think that data is bullshit too. To be frank, like I agree with VITALY. I think all that's bullshit.
It is total bullshit, and he's sticking on this like
the data.
It's like the politicians protecting the kids. We're protecting the kids. We're stopping all of this pornography on the internet to protect the kids.
By the way,
It's
Twitter
always
has
about
hardcore
kids.
porn, by the way. I don't know if Carlos, you probably know, like Twitter is hardcore porn. Any kid can
Yeah,
come
but
across
that's not
that.
okay. Listen,
Search hentai. I
if
did
you
that
just
today.
look at honestly, if you look at the number one platform for, you know, what do they call them, Mambla, like the youth attracted persons, it's Instagram.
Yeah, but Instagram has a shit ton of moderators trying to figure that stuff
But
out. Like,
okay,
I don't give Zucks all the shit. I
but
don't think they
again,
want child
but again,
pornography on
but
the
again, to pretend like these platforms don't have real damage because the effects of that damage aren't physical. You can't see them in the real world, right? It's not something that you can look at like you could see a physical injury. We tend to ignore it, right? While at the same time we pretend like mental health is an important issue. You can't see it. So it's like carbon dioxide. You don't see it in the air, and so it's easy to ignore that it's there. What I'm saying is the data is there. The data is there in the same way that pornography has ruined a generation of men. Social media has ruined a certain generation of women. The data is there on that. And I'm not saying not to. The thing is, I understand that these companies are a necessary evil in our world right now. You don't exist if you're not on social media. That's an unfortunate reality. But what I'm saying is, don't on one hand pretend that you're investing on principle because you want to get off oil and they're doing such horrible things for the world, and then at the same time be like, but I'm going to invest in Facebook because Zuck is the man.
Okay, so
we gotta get Chris. We gotta get Chris.
No, hold on. He's bringing up that, but you invested in Facebook, made your money and left. So the guy who leaves,
okay,
hold on, shit on the thing that because he made some money.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that
ridiculous.
up.
And Palantir too. You shit on that all the time.
Hold on.
Please. We have episodes about it.
I'll shoot down those 2 points in less than a minute. Number one, I invested in Facebook at IPO. Okay. At IPO, I invested in Facebook long before they became what they became now. Even before they were really even monetizing the platform, I invested in it, and I sold out when they ran up a bunch. And I was
when was that? What year was that?
Probably 2 years later, 2 or 3 years later, I was out of it. This is This is a long time ago. So you can't use that against me. What was the second part about you said that I invested in Facebook, and then what was the other point that you said?
It's not hard. Palantir,
you understand, you know my qualms about Palantir. Literally the only reason I bought Palantir was as a symbol, a gesture of support for AMIT.
That's true.
That's the only reason I bought it. And there's nothing to do with me believing the company. Look at the stuff that I post against that company. Look at the stuff that I say about it on a daily basis. So this is not about me having conviction in the company. It's 104 shares.
Okay, you got the high moral ground. Congratulations. Feed your self-righteousness to your kids when they grow up. Go ahead.
Christopher Patel, what are your thoughts 20 minutes in to the podcast?
You know, it's the conversations like this are really hard to have because on one hand, you have to think as an investor and take the morality out of it. But then also at the same time, there's something to be said about enjoying the money that you don't feel good getting. I mean, I know it's a weird thing to talk about, but imagine right now you were able to get a deal and something was really good, but it basically screwed someone over. Like, yeah, you would have the money, but you would feel guilty about it. Now, here's the thing, though. Guilt is a perception, right? So what it is if VITALY right now doesn't feel like, hey, this thing is something that's going to be necessarily an evil thing to a higher degree, then his perception is something different than something that Carlos is. Carlos' perception is, if I invest in Meta, that means like I am part of this evil. Whereas VITALY's like, look, it's evil, but it's like a little thing compared to everything else out there. So I think this is just perception rather than anything else. Like, here's a good example. I know people right now that are investors in real estate, that they primarily do real estate investing, where they'll buy homes in low income areas, right? Fix up the property and then rent it out at a much higher market rate, right? And I have a personal negative connotation to that because I grew up in a situation where I had to go. We lived in a bad neighborhood. You know, eventually the neighborhood became good, and then our landlord would come kick us out and bring in the white people. Like, that's how it was. Like in Brooklyn, when things got gentrified, and so that is a lifelong scarring situation for me, and that makes me a terrible landlord because at the same time, I know that sometimes you have to raise the rent to pay for things, and I don't know if I could raise the rent, and so a lot of times my heartstrings will end up getting pulled. So right now, when some people they talk about real estate investing, like I see them on Twitter, like there's the account that I follow, something called the Fi Couple, where they're like, oh, look at us, we invested in this real estate.
I follow them too.
Yeah, it's like I made money on real estate and everything else, and I'm happy for them. But at the same time, I'm like, you guys are like the typical people who used to come in, buy up homes in our neighborhood, and then turn around, raise the rent on us, and then we ended up having to figure out something in the future. And believe it's a business. Look, at the end of the day, it is a business. People have to do it, but because of that feeling that I have, I wouldn't want to be in that role. Now that's just a perception thing, though. Not everything is like right now. I'm sorry, Carlos, you're vaping. Some people hate the fact that people vape. I will never judge you for it. I'll say whatever, that's cool, man. You know, but like I know people right now, if you were to vape like near them because they've had like a family member who's got cancer or whatever, they would absolutely like try to be one of those assholes that's just like, why are you vaping? You know, so I think a lot of it is just, yeah.
I've had those conversations with people. And
how do you answer them? How do you answer them?
You know what I say? Everyone's got a vice, right? This is the one vice that remains from my youth. I have given up and fought all of my demons. I grew up in a household where both of my parents smoked like 2 packs a day. Okay. Where my mother admitted to me when I was much older that she would actually buy cigarettes instead of buying us food. She told me this at a certain, and I was like, wow, the grip on this thing was real. I've had girlfriends at the time when I was young whose parents would complain because they would say that, you know, these girls would come home smelling like cigarettes. And I smoked cigarettes for a long time. It was a real crutch.
Which one? Newports, Marlboros? Which
probably
one?
like Marlboro Lights. I switch back and forth, but I think everyone smokes Marlboro Lights. And so I struggled with
2 packs a day as well. So
I struggled with it for a while. If anyone's ever smoked cigarettes, it is it's harder to quit, people have said, than heroin. It's very powerful on a physical and emotional level. But I promised my wife that I would be off of cigarettes before we had our first child. And when my friend who knew that I was struggling with this bought me that Juul for like my birthday one year, I said, wow, this seems to be like a middle ground, right? It seems to be a middle ground where I still get what I wanted out of cigarettes, but I'm not. First of all, the financial aspect of it, it costs way too much. And even to this day, it is something that I struggle with. But how I look at it is I'm open about it, right? I'm open and I'm upfront. This is literally my vice, my one vice. And, you know, I challenge anyone.
My vice is Facebook. So there you go.
No, I'm just trying to make a point that everyone has different perceptions of good and evil. And to a certain degree, they can accept a level of, I don't want to call it evil, but something of like a morally tinged company, right? Some people can look way beyond it. Like here's an example, like an oil company. Some people can look at oil companies and say, you know what, fuck it. I don't really care if they're destroying the environment. As long as it makes me money, I'm fine with it. Other people, they're like, you know what? I don't want to be in that role. So it is more perception than it is actual reality. I think when it comes to Meta, when it was at $88, I thought of myself, you know, I'm a free speech person. I want to have free speech out there. I don't want someone arbitrarily policing me, but at the same time, I also kind of wanted to be like, you know what? I want to make the money so that in the future, if I'm rich enough, I could probably have a large enough platform to make a change if I wanted to, right? Like, so
isn't that always
example,
the justification, make the money doing something bad to do something good? That's what everyone does.
I mean, that's what everyone does.
That is the justification. And look,
I want to
when Meta was at $80, I look, the 10-man thing that we do all the time on the show, I do it with myself. And I say to myself, can I make an argument to invest in Meta, but not a bullshit argument, right? Like not an argument where you know, what's that old saying that says, it's easy to fool someone else, but it's hard to.
The only argument you needed was price to sales or price earnings of fixed.
No, but I think what it comes down to is what it comes down to is what Chris said. A lot of people can justify horrible things by thinking that they can make up for it later in the future. Like if I you know, put 100,000 into Facebook right now, I'm gonna take some off the top, and then what I'm gonna do with this money is gonna be better. But that's like the road to hell is paved with
believe it or not, that's how most of major charities are actually formed. Like if you look at the industry, the captains of industry in the United States, most of them, they were involved in some really nefarious things, but they're all like in the future when they got older, they made up for it by doing a shit ton of charity work.
I want to point out like a person like Warren Buffett, which we all respect, yet, and he does get some shit, but very little shit. He invests in Coca-Cola, where he made a lot of his money, which is not
invest in cocaine, bro.
Well, hold on.
Like
my point is that part of obesity is drinking sugared water at McDonald's and wherever else. This is a real problem in America. No one's discussing this, but no one shits on Warren Buffett for being a total immoral dick, which you're shitting on me for. And that's where it's unfair.
That I do
Because-
I do agree with
Hold
Vitaly,
on.
Carlos. You're giving him too much shit for.
You're giving me too much shit, where my only thing at the end of the day is that I'm an investor. I see opportunity in Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg. I think he's a fucking killer. He's a winner. He's going to keep winning. Nothing's going to stop him. And I want to participate in this guy's winning. That's what I want to do. Just like I want to participate in Badri's winning, and just like I want to participate in Elon Musk's winning. This is why we're investing. We're not investing to be the moral junkies here, as somebody pointed out. We're investing to make money and make our lives better.
Okay, look,
Let's face facts, Carlos. You have to really just accept that's what we're doing. And if you can't, then maybe you're not a real junkie.
No, I will say, hold on. I'll say this.
Let me just answer that. Look, to you personally, and even to to people in the chat, they may feel like this is an opportunity to like
seize candy, Buffett, Dairy Queen. This guy is fucking killing half of America, Warren Buffett.
listen, I'm just saying, again, to you, to anyone there in the chat, like it's not meant to be a personal attack on you.
No, it is a personal attack. You're being a real dick about it.
More than like 5 words, dude. Okay.
I'll let you stay, but it was a personal attack.
What I'm trying to say is I'm not coming at you to attack you personally, but as your friend, if I see some sort of inconsistencies in a certain message in a way that you're presenting yourself, I am going to tell you in the same way that I would expect you guys to do that to me.
No inconsistencies. I don't think social media is as bad as you're saying.
Okay, but
there's no inconsistencies.
Can I finish my point? What I'm saying is the data's already there. Okay, we already have the data. If social media wasn't damaging to companies, why is Facebook paying billions of dollars in fines in Europe? Why is Mark Zuckerberg in front of Congress defending things like Cambridge Analytica? Why do we have proof of election interference and now after the fact finding out all of the misinformation and disinformation campaigns that were run on Facebook that deplatformed a bunch of incredibly intelligent, smart people when the pandemic was around? We know all of this stuff now.
First of all, I agree. And same thing was happening at Twitter.
And we also know, I know, but Elon Musk has come in and he wasn't around when that happened, and that won't happen again. That's my point. That won't happen again. And we now know, because of the Twitter files, how deep this was, that basically the social media companies, using their terms of service, circumvented the rights of the people guaranteed to them by the Constitution and acted as the censorship arm of the United States government. That has a real effect on our democracy today, and that's all I'm saying. And I think that has as much of an effect on our lives as, like, who's president has as much of an effect on our lives as the damage that BP did in the Gulf of Mexico when they had that oil spill. You can argue that these things actually do have a real social—
No, of course they have an effect, but the issue is also that the only social media platform that has multiple billions of daily active users is one company. Okay, it's Facebook and Meta. That's it. Of course they're going to have that effect. Twitter can't even get the same effect because they don't even have the number of people. Like, you're really just missing the point that they have won the whole thing. And that's why.
So what you're saying is that it's not even that they're too big to fail. It's that they're too big to be moral. They're too big.
It's a problem.
No, Carlos, his point is Facebook contracts almost 100,000 moderators. I don't think even Twitter has moderators. Because there's not enough content to moderate.
Twitter does have moderators.
No, hold on. I'm in agreement with you that we need to fix some of these things. No problem, by the way, fixing some of things that go wrong, especially the 2016 election nonsense that was happening. But the same shit is happening just on a smaller scale on all these other platforms like Twitter. It's not any different. It's just that they're so big, you get to see so much more in the media about it because they're just so big.
That to me tells me if that is how much power they have, that is how regulated that they should be. This is
so
not,
in your point, anything big should just be regulated. So as soon as Elon Musk gets too big, he should just be regulated.
I'm not saying anything big. What I'm saying is anything too powerful should be regulated. Again, you can't vote Mark Zuckerberg out. You look, we don't know how the 2016—
Yes, I can. As a shareholder, I can.
I want to finish your point. We don't know how the election would have gone had Facebook not have done, Facebook and Instagram not deplatform some of these people. Google's responsible for this too. We don't know how the election would have gone if the Hunter Biden laptop story wasn't suppressed. Okay. And it's specifically on Twitter. We don't know. We do know what happened in 2016 when Comey came out right before the election. We saw that you could say that flipped the election. We don't know what would have happened this last time if the Hunter Biden story was suppressed and the New York Post was deplatformed. That is a huge deal, dude. If you can deplatform one of the oldest publications.
Agreed.
It's
a problem.
Okay, but you can't gloss over and just say it's a problem. Oh well, you have to say, dude, that is a massive, massive error.
Let me give you the benefits though. What has Twitter and Facebook and all these things before he saved it for you? What have they done that is good? Is there any good in this that you see?
What?
Well, they've done something besides being all bad. What is the
They
good?
created Instagram so I could slide into girls' DMs.
Slide in it.
And they created TikTok so I could see them dance.
I think
But but my point is, you're totally glossing over. You're focusing on the bad, and I understand it because you're trying to make a point. But the good is that it brought all of us together. YouTube platforms like this, it brought all these people across the world who are talking to us, who are talking on Twitter, who are talking on Facebook, who are talking on Instagram, and sharing stories and sharing ideas. You're totally missing the good because you want to see the bad.
Which,
Now,
Carlos, you have a good point for the bad. I just think Vitaly's point is the good outweighs the bad, which I
No,
agree.
what
In
I'm
fact,
saying
that's
is-
right, and that's why you can't outlaw
What I'm
everything
saying
that
is-
is good when
what
it
I'm-
has a little bit of bad.
What I'm saying,
That
no,
is not America.
But the flip side of that is you can't point to the little bit of good when the bad is that bad. When the bad is massive election interference or a mass basically delusion of the entire population of arguably the world around a pandemic. That's a huge, dude. I'm sorry, that outweighs any of these positive benefits that you think we're getting from social media. And the reality is, it started off as a couple of bad actors that then grew once the government realized that they can basically have a backdoor with
Social media is so bad. This guy's right. Get off of Twitter. He's right.
Those are the
social media.
Those are I just completely ignore those arguments because they're nonsense. They're nonsense. I'm not saying not to be on social media, but I'm saying
agree.
we can still be on them and be critical of them. And this conversation is not about justifying whether or not social media should exist or shouldn't. I'm specifically just pointing out to what seems to me to be a hypocrisy to shit on AMIT for not caring about privacy and his data when at the same time investing in the company that is
Okay, I'll make
It was
it
good
fair.
content, though. It was great content. So
That is
I'll make it
point.
fair. I'll make it fair. First of all, I do it for the content, and that's the only reason I do any of this shit for.
Yo,
If-
Vitaly,
if
hold on.
people
I've
don't
noticed
know
you-
me. If people don't know
Are
me,
you guys enjoying this conversation?
people
Vitaly,
don't
you've been
understand.
tweeting a lot more now that you got those 1,000 followers. You're doing a lot for the content. I see
Listen,
you on Twitter. You're doing.
listen. The whole point of a podcast is for content. As a filmmaker, I want people to enjoy this, and I'm willing to fucking make myself the enemy for them to enjoy it. Even all
I
right,
love this. I love this.
because that's
I
what's
don't want you to
important.
be an, I don't
At
want
the
you-
end of
I
the
don't want you
day-
to be an
hold
enemy,
on.
though. That's the thing.
At the end of the day, what's
play that
important,
role, dude.
the only reason people watch is
We
because
need
of
the
entertainment.
views, bro. We need the fucking views.
We need the fucking views, exactly. And
All right.
I will keep shitting on AMIT, and now I give AMIT the right to shit on me. How about that? Is that fair? AMIT, you agree on this friendly?
Wait. When you mean shit on you, you're talking about 2 girls, 1 cup type of situation.
Exactly. But I'm saying, look, I'm going to make fun of you all day long about not caring about privacy, and you can go ahead call me a Mark lover all day long too. Cool.
A
we in
Mark
agreement?
Zucker. Okay.
That
All right,
was
this is a
solid
great
content.
conversation.
Exactly.
was
AJ
great.
knows what's good because we provide the entertainment. That's what we do here.
Well, I don't know. You guys saw, if you guys have been following me on Twitter, and if you guys, AMIT, you guys.
Ooh, hold on. We got Big Boy in the chat. I think Zuck is trying to do the right thing, but it highlights just how fragile privacy, democracy, and freedom of speech are.
Thank you, Farzad. Like it's fragile, and I think Elon
And
Musk.
Farzad, you're fired.
And I think Elon Musk is making a hard line in the sand where he is trying to he's making the choice to protect the freedoms and the privacy that we say are important, but often overlook when it comes to our own self-interest financially. And I think somebody has to just say no. And Elon said it in some
And
interviews.
Carlos
I
is
have-
that guy. Okay, just so you know.
But
Carlos is
what
that
the-
guy is going to fight the good
this
fight.
is what VITALY does. VITALY tries to diminish the core of my argument. by
I'm
trying to
providing
make light of it.
entertainment. I don't know what you're doing.
I don't
He's
find that.
gonna
I'm
default
sorry,
into
I don't find that
Okay,
entertaining.
no, Carlos, you have a good point. This is why I've been a free speech absolutist.
You've been changing. I've
on
seen you
Twitter.
on Twitter. You've been.
Yeah, I'm very big there.
You've been
Now,
changing.
here's one thing, though. I don't know if you guys saw this. There was a Chinese media outlet today that tweeted some shit about Islamophobia, and someone underneath it put a community note. I don't know if this was fake or not. That said, you guys
VITALY and
killed,
I. You know,
you
VITALY
guys
and I
killed the
went-
Uyghurs.
Yeah.
That community note is gone. And there's a little bit of why is
Okay.
that? Because it's true. There's a
responded-
genocide
Can you
of
bring
the
it up?
Uyghurs.
Can you show it?
Bring it up. Bring it up.
I did tweet this
I
out.
can't
or I
remember
did
the
respond
account
to
name
this.
anymore.
It's
I'm gonna try to
VITALY.
find it.
Just bring up VITALY's.
It's
Oh, that's how I found it. Wow.
Yeah, it was VITALY. Now, okay.
Some
what
guy
happened-
tweeted it. I
Now, look,
retweeted it and said that's pretty
I
fucked
don't
up.
know. I
is how I
don't
found it.
know. I don't know for sure, but you'll see my response to him.
Look, billionaire is going to billionaire. Okay. At the end of the day, Elon
this
Musk
is-
will do whatever. it takes
Vitaly's
to protect his
consistent. He's
business.
consistent on this.
Okay,
That is
can
true.
I just
Billionaire
combat
is
that?
going to billionaire, dude.
Okay, I'm
Elon
gonna
Musk is
combat
going to
that.
do
I'm gonna
exactly
combat
what he
that.
needs to do to
I'm going to
protect his
combat that
investments.
because, like I said in my response,
Thank
if
you,
your
George.
immediate if your
250 right
immediate
here.
response is to think that it's automatically some nefarious thing on the part of Elon Musk, you are revealing your bias that you just.
Oh
hate
no
the
no
guy.
no
I'm
no.
sorry.
I have no
You hate the
idea.
guy. You hate the guy, and you want to see him fail as much as you're invested
No,
in
he
your
doesn't hate
future.
Elon.
Absolutely, because any chance he gets to like shit on Elon, he'll take it because because it's the easy thing to do or it's fun.
I
The
think that's just
truth of the
content. I
matter
don't think
is-
he hates
yeah, I
Elon.
think that's content, buddy. I
The
love
truth
Elon.
of the matter is this: the tweet is gone. But I'll
in
explain
fact, in fact, what's funny you mentioned is because when I was on Threads earlier today,
by yourself.
by myself, a friend of mine who left Twitter, by the way, he's sick of all this bullshit that's going on Twitter because everybody's shitting on each other. That's what they do on Twitter. He's using Threads now more, well, which is today. But I'm like,
more.
it's today. But I said, he said, oh, Elon, I left that shitty platform, Twitter, blah blah. I said, dude, no matter if you hate Twitter or not, Elon has done good for the world. Okay, so you can shit on Twitter all you want, but the fact is, do not take away what Elon has done. I was actually defending Elon to him right over there. And you're telling me I'm
then we're
shitting
moving
on
on.
Elon.
Go ahead.
Here's
Carlos.
my point. Here's my point. When you see something like that, if your first thing is thinking, "Oh, Elon is using his Elon bought this platform literally to save free speech and privacy," and it's amazing to me the people that anytime anything is different or anything goes wrong, they immediately attribute it to some sort of nefarious intentions where he's that regular billionaire just using his power. The reality of the community notes is you can upvote them and downvote them based on what's useful and what's not. And I've said to you in VITALY, Dan O'Dowd uses this very effectively with FSD. People community note the shit out of his post because he spreads a lot of lies about FSD. And what happens? They rate it not useful. And they say that his posts are full of shit. And what happens? A community notes shows up. Now, Dan O'Dowd uses.
You're sort of making my point.
Can I
at the
make
same
my
time.
point?
Fine, but you're making my point while you're making your point.
Can I make my no? Because and I'll explain why you're not making my point. Because what Dan O'Dowd does is he uses his money and influence to pay a large number of people to rate those community notes not useful. By rating them not useful, the community notes disappear. And that is a way of essentially controlling the moderation.
Okay, so I agree with
strategy.
you. I agree with you. So the Chinese government is on Twitter voting us down.
Can I finish my point? So my point is the community notes disappearing does not mean necessarily that Elon went in there and said, delete it because I need to be good with China. Could also mean that China, as a very powerful and influential nation, has their own system to be able to downvote those community notes and make sure that they don't appear. I'm not saying that both can't be true, but I'm saying to automatically assume that it's a billionaire is going to billionaire and Elon's going to do what he's got to do is, I think.
So Carlos, last question. Let's say Elon he did remove that from China because he's worried about Tesla. You would criticize him for that?
Absolutely, I would. Absolutely, I would.
First of all, I would say he's in the right because look, at the end of the day, he has multiple interests and multiple investors that he's owed to basically. So he has to protect Tesla. He has to protect SpaceX. He has to protect these things. If it involves removing some sort of comment from Twitter, that is not the worst offense that he can make. It's just not.
I agree.
It's not that important. Okay,
it's not. But you know what? He has a history. He has a history of doing things that can be looked at as not protecting Tesla investors. Buying Twitter was a massive thing that the entire Tesla community, all of Wall Street, did not want him to do it.
I agree, but that's an overreaction. That's an overreaction.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The public perception was if you do this, you're taking time away from Tesla. Just get in the factory, make fucking cars, shut the fuck up of free speech. Stop saying your stupid opinions online. Just make cars and get rockets into space. He did it anyway. And ultimately it worked out fine, right? And we're good. We're almost near we're like 30% away from all-time highs. So you're right. It ended up being a nothing burger. But at the time, that was seen and he was attacked for not protecting Tesla.
You know what's good about this podcast? The silence of KRIS.